I've had some really bizarre experiences over the years of acquiring reptiles in many different ways. One of the biggest ways I did this was through Craigslist and going all over the place, sometimes venturing out to other states simply to pick up reptiles from people selling them on Craigslist. And a few years ago in 2019, I did one of those longer trips to Virginia because a subscriber to the channel had to rehome their redfoot tortoise and Crested Gecko. So since I was going there anyway, I decided to stay overnight and see what else was on Craigslist. This particular pickup on this trip is one of my more regretful pickups, but not because of the animal itself, which oftentimes was regretful because it would end up being very expensive to work with or rehab, or it was simply unsavable and would die before I could do anything, or it was just a huge waste of money. But this one was regretful in the sense that I regret not doing anything about the people living in the home. So I've gone to some pretty destroyed and mangled living accommodations, which don't even count as homes. Places that are leaking and hoarding and filled with everything: garbage, illegal activities, weapons, drugs. It's the most weird people that sell reptiles on Craigslist. I've purchased so many other things on Craigslist, and it's just the most chill, normal people all over the spectrum of like classes and income and stuff like that. So even people in severe poverty selling stuff on Craigslist, as long as it's not a reptile, they're the most chill, easygoing people ever. But the moment a reptile is brought into the picture, it's like, oh my God, what is going on? So I went to Richmond as my first stop, which was near my Airbnb, and I was seeing what's on Craigslist, and there was a Crested Gecko for like 20, 30 bucks or something. It looked okay in the pictures. The pictures were pretty bad, honestly. Enclosure looked disgusting, but whatever, 20 bucks for a Cresty, not too bad. So I texted, they sent the address, not much information, and I showed up to a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom apartment and knocked on the door. Before I even knocked, I was like, this is gonna be weird. And a guy opened the door, and I was greeted with 3 adults living in the home. It was 2 guys and a woman. There was also a newborn baby in the house, along with 3 or 4 domesticated pets. I think it was 2 large dogs and 1 or 2 adult cats as well. So plus the Crested Gecko, and I think another reptile, like a ball python or something. So it was about 6 animals, 3 adults, and a newborn baby in a 1-bed, 1-bedroom home. Which, sure, okay, not horrible on its own, but it was pretty disgusting in there. The smell of cigarettes and weed hit me pretty quickly, but there was a stronger smell overtaking everything else that I just could not put my finger on. It's something kind of like burning garbage, burning plastic, something. It was really bad, and it was just a really heavy smell, and I was like, oh my God, I just want to get out of here. So I went back to my Google timeline, and I was actually able to find almost exactly where I was. I checked some crime statistics just now, and the street I purchased a Crested Gecko on had the highest rates of sexual assault, robbery, murder, larceny, and burglary in all of Virginia. When I first started doing Craigslist pickups, I always tried to do it in a public place, but you'd be surprised at just how lazy the reptile sellers get and refuse to go more than 5 feet away from their front door to sell you an animal. Thankfully, they weren't exactly there to chat. They took my 20 bucks, I took their Cresty, and I was on my way. They didn't give me an enclosure or anything, which I wouldn't have even taken it. I used to just take whatever supplies people would give me, but I started actually denying taking enclosures, usually because they would be so caked in remnants of tobacco smoke, like that yellow nicotine, which it rubs off, but it's just not worth the time. So he did give me some leaves that the Crested Gecko was sitting on, plus the Cresty, and he put it in a tub that I brought. And when I brought that tub back to the car, even closed, it started making the car smell pretty bad. And looking back, I cringe like everyone. I cringe on my younger self, but I cringe on so many things about so many of these experiences. It was just 18-year-old me with this Crested Gecko and my mom's car in the middle of a pretty sketchy place in Richmond. It wasn't one of those places where you're hearing gunshots every 5 minutes, but there were people sleeping on the streets and a lot of obviously not legal activities going on in probably every single apartment around me, plus just people doing deals on the street and stuff like that. That was just me picking up some reptiles by myself on Craigslist, going into people's houses with no self-defense. My regret with this pickup does not come from the Cresty, even though I brought it back to the Airbnb. The moment I opened it, it started smelling up the whole place. But like I was saying, that my regret's not with the reptile pickup. it's the fact that I didn't report the house, honestly. When people are doing illegal activities in the house and I pick up, I'm pretty professional about it. I'm just there to do my job and leave you alone. Do whatever you want to yourself. I really don't care. But looking back, my regret is on the newborn that was in the house and the domesticated animals. The dogs and cats didn't look unhealthy. They didn't look malnourished, but I mean, they were living in a basically hoarder home with a lot of smoke, as was the baby, which of course there's going to be many people living in these conditions across the United States and other countries, but I don't exactly know why I didn't do anything. Obviously, if I had reported about the child, they would have known it was me. It's not like it mattered. They didn't even know my name. But yeah, it irritates me that I don't know why. I was just like, cool, 3 adults, a kid, and 6 animals in this house. Not my problem. I'm gonna go now with your Cresty. Goodbye. So yeah, I don't know, but I still think about it because that was over 3 years ago, so almost 4, I think. In this video, which obviously you've been seeing some clips, I recorded this experience. I didn't record in the house or anything, but I recorded the aftermath and me literally just coughing every time I had to touch the Crested Gecko because it was so bad. When it comes to the Crested Gecko itself, it did have breathing problems, which is very common with reptiles that I would pick up. Usually it was because of tobacco, but in this case, it was likely a crack house. Because after researching the smells of different drugs, crack is definitely the closest. And in this part of Richmond, fentanyl was and still is a big problem. So most likely, I would guess it was crack laced with fentanyl. When I walked into the house, I'll admit, I felt something, and I didn't like the feeling. And I have not felt that feeling since, and I don't wish to feel it again. So I definitely can't confirm it, but I would not be surprised if I did somewhat ingest crack, because over 90% of overdoses in that part of Richmond are from fentanyl. So maybe it didn't, maybe it was, okay, it was crack. I'm sure it was crack. I don't know. Surprisingly, that's the only time I've smelled that. Sure, I've smelled weed and tobacco and other things I wish that I never entered my nose while going on Craigslist pickups, but that is the Craigslist experience for you. You get to meet people from every, you get to meet all sorts of unique people on that website. The Crested Gecko smelled absolutely horrible, even after washing it the best I could. Thankfully, it seemed to be okay. Still not great at breathing, because reptiles do have very delicate respiratory systems. But in the end, I was able to list the Cresty and sell it and find it a home. And most people don't really update me on the animals. This person did not really, but I never heard anything bad. So hopefully that means that the Cresty did well, and hopefully it's doing well now. Unfortunately, I don't know who I sold it to, but it was, I think, like a year or something old approximately, so it could be going on 4 or 5 years now, which now I think of it, so would the newborn baby be that was living in the house. I did many other pickups on this trip. I got like 10 animals or something. It was quite a little haul. It went pretty well. All the other animals were pretty good, and all of them ultimately were able to recover and be okay, and I could sell them, including the tortoise and the Crested Gecko that I actually went to Richmond to pick up, which that guy was normal. When it comes to picking up from viewers of the channel, you were mostly all pretty normal, which was nice, and not as suspicious and sketchy and disturbing as others. So that is one that's probably in the top 5 that stand out in regards to it's just the house is always what stands out the most to me. Just the kind of stuff that people will have in there, and just how open people will be about, like, I am a complete stranger. They're giving me their address and I'm just entering their home. So sure, that is risky on my end when I would do that, but it's also risky on theirs. People will just have all this paraphernalia laid out on their tables. People would have all sorts of weapons, all sorts of animals, and all sorts of people, which sometimes is an entire family plus many animals in a 1-bed, 1-bath crack house. So moral of the story, probably go with someone. I had no one I could bring at the time. It was like everyone else was busy. I had to just do this on my own. Probably should have brought some self-defense. Probably should have given some people my location. I basically did everything you shouldn't do when doing a Craigslist pickup. And I probably should have reported them, mostly because of the kid and also because of the animals. But I try not to dwell on it too much, but it's definitely in the back of my head sometimes. So there it is. for me to share with you many years later. I really hate my old self. I think it's normal, like I said, to cringe when looking back at your old self, but I rewatched the vlog where I recorded this experience. I'm just like, God, I hate this person so much. It's probably not even that different, but I don't know. I didn't like my personality. I don't like the way I acted. I don't like the way I recorded. I don't like the way I talked. And I really don't like the decisions I made in regards to my own safety and the safety of others. So, but it is what it is. And there was a comment recently on the channel saying I'm using my channel as like my own confessionary box or something. Guess I'm continuing to do it. But I wanted to share that with you, and there was really no point past that. So hopefully you enjoyed. But that'll be it. I'm Alex, and thanks for watching.